was really enticing now after this third game where there was a huge AD diff. Instead, they opt into this Lucian Nami contest. So I am more than scared for Shogun and Taki.
It's like an old school combo, right? Like you had like the Kai'Sa Nautilus back when she first came out as like the go-to combination when like the champion was there, and then like the Xayah was usually the response pick. But this was like the original combination of the bot lane when Kai'Sa originally came out, and like kind of the reason that Nautilus in general was one of the most picked champions for, I guess, was the most picked champion for like the last 3 years of the support role, was almost certainly because of the influence that Kai'Sa had on top of it. So they do have that combination from before. This is pretty big. So there's an early game invade that Shogun kind of got pushed out a little bit. They're looking for just an early invade on the blue buff. They're going to find it very, very quickly because they know that they have way too powerful of a combination of a bot lane for anything that can come about from Saigon here.
They're looking to invade bot side to make bot lane about the 2v2, right? If BJ wants to help out his bot lane, he's gonna have to sacrifice a lot of his time because
Oh, wow.
all his bot side camps are gone. So they are actually setting up this bot lane for success. Stal and B are now on their own, or more importantly, Shogun and Taki are on their own. So if Stal and B get to control this laning phase, BJ spotted as well. So full information for GAM. This is the prime opportunity for Stal and B to show once and for all they are the best bot lane, or they could just die level 1. That's possible too.
Okay, so always hedge your bets when it comes to VCS. That's the #1 bet to make sure that you know, because even in a Lucian Nami lane up against a Kai'Sa and an Nautilus, you have no expectation of the early game. Even when they've split the map to where the Graves is able to be here and support, that's going to be a problem as well. It does open up, however, BJ to be able to counter invade because, of course, like Froggy at any point could just drop his entire spell load into the wave and be anywhere on the map in pretty quick succession. One of the best reasons why you can play Ziggs into a number of matchups without that much wave clear.
They want the level 1 dive. It's still level 1. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Taki doesn't have that aftershock to make him tanky either. Shogun with a decent flash, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. He will go down to the Lucian. Can they answer anything back? Yes, they can with one. And now with Froggy arriving, they just need to land some CC onto Levi. Taki has the hook ready. Doesn't want to waste it quite yet, but he needs to throw it at some point. BJ is there, but he can just go for the execute. I don't feel like this was great execution. Okay, good job, Taki, just ensuring that he'll get a kill, but 2 kills over to the Nautilus, 1 kill over to the Lucian. You start wondering who actually comes out on top.
It's a situation where, like, actually, top lane tries to get him a nice little Jace insect there in the top lane with the flash, burning Kiai slash on the other side. Nothing too crazy yet. A lot of poke damage on the Kiai. He has to be a little bit careful here, so I'm going to wait on bated breath for the top lane to kind of finish as I talk about what happens on the bottom side, because it was a great execution to the level 1 punishment, trying to take advantage of their early game bottom side. So I would say, actually, more than anything, Saigon's happy because they're recorded. What happened mid lane?
Froggy got a solo bolo.
There's just action everywhere.
To death.
Yeah, I think Carti dived on the tower. Carti overconfident on his Galio, 72% win rate, but now BJ is still lurking. BJ is here.
BJ is here, but whether he can get in is going to be the real question. Style should be able to outplay this one, but they get the hook on the fish. How thematically appropriate, as B will be sent to the depths, and Shogun is here to party.
Levi wants a little bit of it too. Nope,
yes.
He does not.
Coward, get in there. Is this what happened in the mid lane? Okay, we can see a little bit. Oh, you're just dashing through all the mines as well. Like, okay, like Ziggs we haven't talked about yet. We'll get a chance to talk about, but all of this early game action everywhere has just yielded so much for Saigon, because all in one fell swoop, there's all the summoners down from the bottom lane here from GAM. They weren't able to pull anything to get the 1 kill in the Lucian to try to build on, but that's been equalized by Shogun pulling 1. And your top side of the map's looking good because you have Froggy with a kill in the back pocket, as well as BJ in a solid position on this Volibear to make a lot more of an early game impact. This feels like a position that Saigon can win this early game and then set up their team, which is, to me, with all this range that they've got, actually very menacing against the side of GAM.
This early game is once again reminiscent to one of the games they played against each other in the second round robin, where GAM was winning all the lanes, and then they pushed it a little bit too far. They tried to go for an early dive onto the bot lane. It was Levi on Trundle, if I remember correctly, and it backfired. They gave up the first blood. Not quite as bad on the backfiring there. In this game, they still got the first blood onto the Lucian, and Lucian is dominating the laning phase right now. The big problem is, once this accelerated or super far ahead and more than tanky support on Taki, gets to level 6, he can just stand in front of the Nami, and Nami can't play the game. So usually this matchup isn't too bad for the Nami, because Nautilus isn't actually that tanky after his initial few seconds of tankiness and a shield. And this Nautilus especially doesn't bring the aftershock, so Nami can actually pierce through him with the help of Lucian. But in this case, this is now a tank Nautilus, so it's once again harder for the fish to actually work in this spot lane.
I'm waiting as well because there's a lot of bot side or top side action that's kind of leveling here because Levi's here to try to assist Kiaya and make sure this wave gets under. But BJ thankfully is here for the hover as well. You can see the Galio is also set up to try something because Kadi has the ultimate readily available to go in with Kiaya as that classic VCS combination of the Galio Camille as they can't quite make it happen.
Froggy can add a Mega Inferno bomb.
Do I get to talk about Ziggs mid lane now? Because I love Ziggs mid lane. This is one of my favorite champions.
You go nuts, mate.
Yeah, okay. So, first off, there's a very limited champion pool that it's super good into, and Galio is one of them because you have superior wave clear. Galio basically has to full engage into you, but you have ways to break that. And then you combine that with, again, global impact with an ultimate that reaches all the way across the map. Makes you feel really good. And you scale incredibly into a game with a ridiculous amount of poke. You throw a Jace into the mix as well, and it means that, like, how are you going to establish a battle line if you really GAM? Because if you drop half the health bar on your carries before the fight even really kicks off, before you can get your Camille Galio in the opposing backline, there's a lot of problems to be had.
And for me, it's more about SGB with the Ziggs mid lane, because I definitely see what you're talking about there in terms of just pure champion matchups, but this is Froggy we're talking about, right? And Froggy is a little bit of a weird player. He basically plays all the champions we've seen. I know, we always go back to his mid lane Rammus and mid lane Shyvana days, but he is mostly known for his roaming champions, maybe his melee carries as well, but he's not a bad and control mage player either. The question is more about can the rest of his team actually buy time for him, because in team fights we've seen Froggy excel with the likes of Victor, for example, or even Veigar, where he plays a more active role. So let's see if his team can actually kind of suffer through the early game without a mid laner, because this Ziggs is just going to be in mid lane, throw some bombs around, maybe get a tower or a few platings, but it's not really going to impact the other lanes. So that's more what I'm looking at, because for me, Froggy, especially this split together with BJ, was the most fearsome early game 2v2. And now on this Ziggs, I'm not entirely sure if you can follow up on that.
Rebel, I know we've already talked about your Ziggs, but looking at the rest of the map, the fact that Levi's on this Graves, does that spell a little bit of trouble for SGB? This is a pick that's been banned very consistently.
So on one hand, Levi on farming champions is like, again, the classic that I always like familiarized him with, even back when he was like, when he came to NA and he played on 100 Thieves Academy, he was like a Graves player even back then. So like, that was what I always knew him as, is less of a pure attacking jungler and more of a, I want to farm, I want to carry games type jungler, which is why it's a little menacing, because it's Levi. You have to, pay the respects to the king when the time comes to actually have that come about. On the other hand, going back to the point that I think that Yolwei was making about Froggy not having impact in the mid lane, having a farming focused jungler, especially when you've got a powerful early bottom lane to try to play to, and you've got like this really powerful team fight combination.
Husband in trouble as he's locked in the cage. The Galio's brought down on top. Textbook stuff.
I was going to say, I don't think Levi can have the kind of impact that you need, but if the rest of the map is making plays, that feels really good for GAM, if they could just like free up the game for Levi. So it's kind of a contest of who can scale better into the game. Can Froggy get more space from the all of Saigon Buffalo, or can GAM buy more space for Levi to scale into the game?
And if you think about what just happened on the map, it's devastating for Saigon Buffalo, because they lost the kill in top lane, they got ganked in top lane, while the jungler was soloing on the bot side of the map, the dragon. So they lost an objective on the bot side, even though the play happened in top lane. GAM winning on both sides of the map this early into the game, and in 1-4 kill situation, of course now 2-4, this is basically just Husband overstepping, not respecting the combination, and that's with Froggy as his teammate, who is the prime Galio player, so very disrespectful positioning. Jace is apparently not happy today in either of these two teams' hands. So
Marvy,
once again, we see
this
a dying
is
Jace.
euphoric.
Yeah, the analysis really coming in clutch from Mobby today about Jace bad. It's one of our favorite kind of terminologies here when we're talking about draft. Is just say champion and then bad afterward. I like to say it about Syndra. Everybody likes to say it about Jhin, and of course now Jace is thrown into that mix from Mobby on our desk as well. As being proved right is always nice through kind of tangible situations like this where Hosma just gets ganked. Now again, you get into a poke scenario. I think this does turn a little bit on its head, so there is that to talk about as well.
But I think this play even goes a little bit further than you think in the first place, because usually a lot of casters like to talk about the pendulum swing, right? You make a play on one side. Okay, speaking of play on one side, you make a play on one side, and the enemy team kind of has an opening to counter on the other side because they have a stronger side there. But if you play with this very aggressive and risky choice of going for both sides at the same time,
jumps in, he's got BJ coming, but Kiai is going to cut him in half. He doesn't actually go down. I think Kiai gets away as well. He's got a hook shot. No!
I really thought it was a bait actually coming in from Hosmed where he was going to be able to walk out of that situation. Now bottom side.
Shogun in so much trouble. He's trying to outplay Style. Flashes away from the collateral damage. He stays alive, but in comes the fish, puts him to the grave.
Almost killing Levi there. We could have potentially taken one shot for Levi, but Levi just barely walking out of there, almost digging his own grave. But now everyone is low HP. Levi was here, but he can't fight.
Yeah, Taki is here, needs to just land a little bit of damage, and they will do it. Froggy getting the kill as well. This should be a double for the Ziggs, and he is well and truly online.
Bit of strike back in the bottom lane where, you have a situation where you want to play to this Lucian and Nami combination. It's worked out a couple of times, like that dive right there when they have resource, but I don't think the pure 2v2 has gone as much in their favor as they've wanted it to. Right there was a great example where even in the dive scenario where like Shogun outplays ridiculously to put damage into 3 members, it leads to Saigon Buffalo being able to throw a counter punch now.
Goodbye.
This is a very aggressive game coming out from both of these teams, and of course using Froggy in the bot lane immediately to take the first tower will actually propel Saigon Buffalo into a gold lead for the first time in quite some time, probably 2 or 3 hours at this point, because they were always behind. Even in the game they were winning, they were behind for a long part of that one. So Froggy 6-3-0. 100 CS at 11 minutes. It's really popping off here. And this is a different look from Saigon Buffalo, not the premier Saigon Buffalo style, but something they can also do, because Froggy, he might not be the greatest laner, but he's a very good player, and he's showing it once again today.
They kind of figured this out this split too, because before this they always had Froggy on either really weird champions like in spring 2021 when he was playing like Yone and Kane mid lane, but in situations like this you can find a number 1. This is actually a replay of the mid lane fight where Shogun was just trying to catch the wave into Gotti, but unfortunately he just gets run at. That's kind of unfortunate.
Unfortunately, you are in Galio prison.
Yeah, I mean, Kadi's trying to lock somebody else in that because he gets stuck into that position. They B1'd for him for a reason because he's able to take advantage of it, so that's quite nice.
I feel like we're seeing GAM adapt to Shogun being the youngest player and maybe also the player that can exploit the easiest. They know Hosmed, Froggy, BJ, and Taki are all very good players that can all hold their own. Today seems to be mostly Hosmed's favor, even though Kiai is actually dominating him in this game, but mostly was in Hosmed's favor in the top side matchup. So they ironed out in the first few games, okay, we can actually attack Shogun, and they're just doubling down every single time they can see him on the map, just going for Shogun, trying to put him behind. Look at him now, he's 20 CS down, he's 1-3, and he's very far away from any item breakpoints being useful for his team, while the Lucian is already sitting on 1 item.
Volibear level 6. He's actually level 8, but wants to use the ultimate regardless. They turn the tower off. They're going to move in onto the Galio. There is a teleport coming in. They need to be able to kill him very, very quickly here, or things could go very wrong. Kiara arrives, but it'll just be to spectate his friend dying.
Actually did a really wonderful job right there, being able to make that dive happen a lot faster than I thought it was going to. The attempted play of Kadi just like trying to E-dash underneath of his own tower being blocked off and the tower being shut down in one fell swoop from BJ really led to them finding that in a good place. And again, the defense now of their young player the exact same way that like GAM has been trying to attack for both the powerful bottom lane in style, live up to the style they've been working to for the majority of the split, but also to shut down one of the younger players on Saigon Buffalo is being thwarted a little bit by Saigon putting some additional resources into the Kaiser to dig it out of this early game deficit that I was at.
We're also seeing that Saigon Buffalo is running the new bounty collector rune in basically every position. Every single time we see someone pick up a kill or an assist, we see the 70, 110 gold pop off.
To be
they're
fair,
actually getting... They're playing a very aggressive style, so it makes a lot of sense, right?
That rune may as well say, if you don't take this in VCS, just uninstall. Come on now.
When you Rift Herald flip and have 4 kills from just one team fight at like 10 minutes into the game, I mean, you're pulling 500, 600 gold just from one rune alone, which is a pretty nice way to spike yourself into the game like this. So.
But I think it's the first time actually in the series that Saigon Buffalo is sitting on a very solid early game lead. They had another one a little bit later into the game, but now we're at 14 minutes and they're almost 2k gold ahead, roughly 2k gold, which should bode well, especially with a late game scaling monster like the Ziggs. The only issue, of course, once again, the Dragon. They haven't been able to contest first Dragon at all the whole series. And they are staring down at a potential Hextech Soul, which is quite scary, especially with the likes of Kiaya being able to run people down with the extra slow, and so on, Levi extra power. So they need to do something about the Soul, but considering they're ahead in gold, they should be able to set up a good team fight there.
With only a little bit of attack speed, they can actually set up Shogun to be able to take over in fights. That's an aggressive play.
And now the Galio has landed in as well. They're going to try and get the back half of this fight right. The Nautilus is taking so much damage, he'll go down. So it's actually a 1-for-1 in the end. But where did that come from?
Even B is running the rune. Even B got the knife. Oh, that's amazing. I like the fish with a lot of gold. So now we are looking at this Herald, and Saigon Buffalo hasn't been able to get many Heralds in contested situations either. So this game is looking really nice for them. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but in the end, the Nami got the kill. And yes, Enchanters scale a little bit better with gold than traditional tank supports, because Enchanter items actually make the rest of the team stronger. So you're kind of investing in other people, but very good E there from Husmid.
Yeah, he still gets caught in the Everfrost, though. Levi's going to bring the damage to bear, and you just can't get away.
Unfortunate situation to find. Here comes bearing down on them.
DJ, he's coming in. Froggy doesn't have ult yet. He's just going for the 1v2. There's a tag from the Kaiser, and it just works. And now Froggy coming in, blocks him off with that satchel. SGB, they're looking hot.
Yeah, you see strikes on the other side of the map the way that we actually saw in the previous game as well, where GAM is pushing in other places, but I feel like this is just not as valuable. Ziggs can match what you're doing because of the W and the ability to kind of take towers very, very quickly. The ability to wave clear minions isn't as bad, and so they're going to be able to snowball this into further towers with the rest of their composition. And again, they've got a Ziggs. Like, they can siege into any situation on the map, plus the poke on their team. The more gold that they get, the more they can set up for team fights around neutral objectives. I think they could contest this Dragon if they wanted to, because they've got enough frontline with Bean to actually make that happen. I think Saigon is perfectly happy with the way things have turned out. 3k gold lead up to this point, that's exactly what you're looking for.
This is one of the very few replays we're getting, because we just can't keep up with those.
Yeah.
The dive is deep under the tower, and they lose quite a bit of HP. And of course, this is early game Volibear. He packs quite a punch. He's the mean champion in the early game. But the more important part is Ziggs is already on its way. And yeah, look at Froggy zoning perfectly. He deals so much damage already. He just basically one-shot the opponent there and bringing all... Oh, no.
We come back immediately as they're going to turn a play around. Husmed can't get out of this one, but a teleport is now being committed. And the rest of them are able just to run away as they're getting frogged out of this one. Ooh, a little bit of a catch onto Style. There's the Killer Instinct to follow it up. A wave holding them there for now. Froggy's in a lot of trouble. They have to try and extract him. They can't. But they'll turn this one around regardless. Shogun, can you get this done? Kiaya desperately wants to stop him. Manages it. This is GAM with the team fight prowess as they find 4.
No damage.
No damage. Voshan. Yeah, Voshan. The entire fight, not only as a matter of, like, it's not that they don't have any damage, right? It's that they split their damage so heavily in this fight that it cost them quite a bit. You'll get to see it in the replay, but this is the first strike back that GAM has really had on the map. This is also right around a neutral objective that they're looking to Dragon stack for, where we're talking about Saigon being comfortable being up 3k. This was contingent on them getting to the neutral objective unscathed and being able to set their feet for a fight.
And this is another one of those crazy fights. It starts actually in bot lane, goes till second mid tower on the other side. But the most important member here is Froggy, definitely. He is 5-1 starting this fight. I think he's sitting on 2 items in the fight already, but then he can't get away from Kiaya, and Kiaya with the help of B. And that's a scary, scary combination. Great timing once again from B as well. And Fish and Kiaya together, just... It's so hard to get away from this Camille, and Kiaya taking kill after kill after kill. He's such a menace, and you need some extra peel for your Ziggs, because you just can't leave him alone in those team fights.
But look, SGB had time to respawn, and they had the Hex Gates to get out of base. They had plenty of time to get here.
Yeah, I would have thought that there was residual setup coming out from GAM, where they would have backed and then came back out to try to contest the river, because it would have been easy enough for them to snag this. I guess they're comfortable with the gold advantage, going back to relatively even and kind of slowing down the dragon stacking. But that feels almost counterintuitive to how they want to play out a game like this, because this buys time for Saigon to continue trying to set up for scaling, get their Kai'Sa online, everything else going in their favor in at least that regard. Now, it's also a tower being responded to.
You can't do this against the bigs.
Nope, you never can.
In the end, it ends up being a 1-for-1 tower trade, so it's all right. I mean, it's better to get the inner turrets because it's a little bit more valuable, but they want the fight. Froggy, no flash.
Yeah, they find their way onto Froggy. He knocks himself away, but guess who's here? It's Kiaya, baby! He goes gold to buy himself a little bit of time. There's the Aztec ultimatum now being used onto BJ, but the bomb being thrown directly up in the air. Froggy can't fight his way out of this one. SGB, you didn't need to be here, and they get punished for their mistakes.
I'm just waiting for this to kind of close out, because Kiaya is able to run down the last final member after everything is said and done over the course of this fight. Because, again, it's another situation in which Saigon wants to fight directionally. They want to be able to throw kind of damage from Hosbet and Froggy in one direction, and they don't let it happen. They get flanked from multiple sides, and because of that now, again, that's the second thrown fight in a row. That's a Baron buff going over to the side of GAM, almost certainly, with like basically nothing else to talk about, and it means that it's going to be much harder for them to dig their way out of this game. They still have poke to rely on. They still have later game that they can focus on, especially since they split the dragon and they were able to take that one off the board from GAM. But GAM finding ways to get back into this, finding ways to get team fights that like otherwise just have not been looking good for themselves, just off the back of a little bit more creativity with how they're approaching them.
Yeah, GAM has the composition to fight fire with fire. For most of this game, and actually some of the other games already, we saw a little bit of the split in the focus of these teams, where Saigon Buffalo just runs at you in team fights all the time. All the time. They have amazing mechanics, they're great team fight setups, and they just try to beat you with this one style of play. And GAM tried to be a little bit more diverse, tried to fight other things, even fell for it in this game. But now, walk me through this Rebel. Can Froggy even do anything here?
So look at where their front line is. Their front line is kind of on the right side, right? There's Taki, there's BJ. The damage has already died on the left. Froggy lives forever in the red buff pit for absolutely no reason, but nobody is there to block damage. They want to be fighting without anybody being able to flank them from multiple sides. The jungle isn't the place you really want to do that in. This happened in their first fight too, because Taki and Shogun had split off to go find Style, and it meant that they got kind of attacked and they got clustered together in one big chunk where everybody was able to fight them from two sides. And that was another situation where, again, their backline was very, very exposed and not able to be defended by some of the frontliner like BJ and Taki should be able to do inside of fights, to buy time for the poke to land, to buy time for Hosbit and Froggy to really start putting damage into this GAM composition, who for the most part is relatively low range. It's shocking they haven't been able to find a way to actually make this one play out.
Saigon Buffalo's composition is not designed to all be at the same spot at the same time, right? We want to poke with Jason Ziggs before the fight starts, and then collapse on people with Shogun when the time comes. You can't fight if everyone is on top of each other, because the composition doesn't work like that. Jace and Ziggs really want to be far away from the enemy front line, and especially from this super scary Kiaya on the other side. Now 5-0, finally recovering, finally finding his form, his MVP performance in the final, and this is the first sign that this final is only going one way. He wants his second title as a top laner. It's ridiculous. This player has been the best top laner for years now. He's only won one title as a top laner and one as a mid laner. So today, it seems like, is the day where he finally cements himself with a second top lane title.
And of course, he was a bit of a bendy mid laner. He was playing top lane champs, but still, officially as a top laner, you are obviously correct. Kiaya, someone with such a storied history. This guy comes from like really extreme poverty in Vietnam, finds his path through esports, through GAM, has been super loyal to this organization that have helped him so much. I'm not big on bigging up organizations, right? But when it comes to GAM and Kiaya, that is truly a match made in heaven. It's truly a love story. And as much as I don't want to be biased on cast, you can't not root for this guy.
Kiai is definitely somebody that, like, I think you guys were around when he was, like, stepping in and doing quite a bit inside of, like, the first couple of splits for GAM, being able to grow into the #1 top laner that, GAM was able to utilize in such a number of ways. And it's been great that you guys have been able to live the same way like Hazmat did, but more specifically, I think Kiaya stepping into the role, being the #1 top laner here, especially after, like, you had top lane members that lasted for so many years that, like, no longer now exist, or no longer play, or they've kind of fallen by the wayside. You get, like, the newer generation of top laners that are starting to come in, but Kiaya still stands resolute at the top pretty significantly, and getting him this title, I think, is pretty important for GAM. Obviously, there's Saigon, who wants to not be 3-1 yet again in a best-of-5 final, but here's GAM wanting to be able to put them in their place, be able to get this title for all of their players once again.
And it's actually so cool to also spin it the other way, because as I said before, Kiaya was already the best top laner for quite some time. He wasn't able to get the titles in 2020. He wasn't able to get the title in 2021 winter, and mostly because of bot lane diff, because of team fighting diff. But Taki might actually attempt another team fight here.
I think he's just been absolutely ruined, and the Buffalo are getting culled as well. But look on the side, Kiaya's just diving into the base against Husband, and there's nothing this Jace can do about it. Kiaya flashes forward, gets bear slapped. That might have been a bridge too far. He goes gold. Can he get out of there? BJ jumping forward. He's going to get cut down as well.
How is he alive?
Go wrong.
I'm floored right now. This is incredible. Somehow Saigon Buffalo, they still have all their poke up. They're going to be able to push back, I think, eventually, in the grand scheme of things for GAM.
And that is another dive coming in. Husmed has been taken out. The base is being broken. GAM are only 1 or 2 more plays away from finally putting their name back on the shield. And we know how much it means to them. Do they get to go to MSI? No. But that doesn't matter, and let's look how they've done it.
Once again, an aggressive dive coming in, and Taki really starting this off on the complete wrong foot, just way overextended style, going for these aggressive ADC plays that GAM has been missing for such a long time in the meantime. Kiaya doing his own things and forcing so many resources from everyone there. Amazing stopwatch value, but in the end, it's just too much of a wallet diff, too much of a composition diff as well. They just can't lock down the kills. So this might have been the last deciding fight to put GAM ahead of SGB in the series.
You can see there's still some fight because the damage is there from Saigon Buffalo, but they just have not been able to get the fight that they're looking for. Taki and Shogun have been a little bit weird inside of a game like this for a bot lane that is so storied over the course of the split, doing so well. Obviously, they're coming against some of the best competition you could have. To Lucian, Nami for Style and B was going to be a tough prospect, but they've made mistakes that we haven't seen them make the majority of the split. This is like last-ditch territory here for Saigon Buffalo. Baron buff is something to consider, and of course the Hextech Soul is on the horizon here for GAM as well to be able to work with. So there's got to be something that snaps for Saigon Buffalo if they want to take this into game number 5. But GAM right now just looking to walk this one in. They've got more than enough damage. They've got more than enough engage to work with. They can take a 5-on-5 fight anytime they would like around one of these neutral objectives. They just got to find the right one.
Yeah, and to come back to the style point, he's actually already a champion of the VCS. When he won in last year's spring, no one really considered him. He was the passenger in this amazing GAM team. Now he's much more than that. Now he's a main carry. They can rely on him to actually carry the team fights. Where's Kiaya going?
It doesn't matter. He can do this because look at the way his team collapses. They bring the 2 slices of the pizza and they slam it shut. And SGB are going to be the delicious toppings. Froggy will go golden, but it's only going to buy time as he gets cleaned up by Cardi. And Saigon Buffalo, they put up such a valiant fight, but when Kiaya is online, you can't stop this man. Look where he is. He's behind 4 towers as he moves in to try and take down Shogun. Levi comes in with the big boost to help his mate out.
Are we seeing the last seconds of our split? I think we
are.
are.
GAM triumphant, undefeated in the regular split. The pristine gods of the VCS denied their throne in winter, but as warmth returns, so too does GAM as they rise with the season and they get back on top. They are the VCS Spring Split champions. They are the champions of Vietnam, and they are going to be representing us at the Southeast Asian Games. And oh boy, I cannot wait to watch.
This is absurd. It's kind of crazy to think what this team has been able to accomplish even over the last couple of splits. We've seen what story that they could tell. We've seen what talent that they have across the board. Back in 2020,